Hello, Albuquerque.
In those days, it was 41, so it was a lot of racism.
I'm a Boeing 737 first officer.
I did a lot of research, and I recommend everyone do the same.
And now suddenly you're addicted,
Right.
literally to heroin.
Where were you born? I was born in Cambridge, England.
Both my parents were drug addicts.
Welcome to another episode, everybody. This is your host, James Graves Brown. We are back with another Ordinary Joe who's got extraordinary stories to tell us. Today, my special guest is my good friend, Estevan Rael. Welcome to the show, Estevan. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming down here and taking the time, man.
Of course.
So I'd like to start these off with how we know each other. We met in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, at O'Reilly.
All right.
Is that correct? Yeah, so you were a shift lead?
I really never made it that far. I was just, what was I doing? I was just delivering in the truck.
Oh.
All over the place, and then for a while there I was up at the front.
Yeah, because I remember closing with you a few nights.
So for a while there I was up in the front with you and a couple other guys, and that was that, man. But majority of the time I was driving.
Interesting.
But then I moved up in the front with you,
And now while you were working there, you were also working at something else, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And tell me what that was.
I was working on my pilot's license.
Working on a pilot's license. I didn't want to say anything because I'm a huge av geek, but oddly enough, at the time I could care less about planes or flying or any of that stuff. As a matter of fact, I was a very nervous flyer at the time, so really weird. We'll get into that later, but so tell me, what got you into aviation? What got you interested in that?
Well, just my first airplane ride back when I was a kid. Headed to Disneyland here in Albuquerque, Sunport, Southwest Airlines, going to Disneyland for the first time.
Nice.
Just looking out that window and just seeing the world. And to me, they looked like little Hot Wheel cars on the ground.
Yeah, buddy. And
that always interested me, and that started it all when I was little. And then as I grew older, I see airplanes, and till this day, you'll still see me drop everything I'm doing and look up, and sometimes I'll pull out my phone and pull out the app and see who it is and where they're going and how fast they're going.
You would not believe we are basically the same person, dude. My wife, will be dead in the heat of a conversation, and I'll hear an airplane above, and I just, totally forget about the conversation, pull out my phone and take pictures, and then look at what I just took pictures of and where they're headed. And
yeah, my son and I are pretty bad at that now. Before I left Santa Fe on my way here, there was a C-130 doing approaches there at Santa Fe, and I was like,
nice.
I text my son right away because they were actually on their way to Albuquerque too to come and eat, and I had to text him right away, and I sent him a picture. And
that's awesome.
Or we get all pumped about it. It's just.
You're preaching to the choir, bro. So how old were you more or less when you started having an interest in aviation?
So I was probably about I don't know. I want to say around. Probably could have been younger, but around 7 or so is when I went to Disneyland and remember all that stuff. I was saying that when I grew up, what really screwed me up in the head was Top Gun. So after I saw that movie, man, it was that's what did it for me.
That's really funny that you say that, because I was actually supposed to have a podcast this morning with another guy, but we rescheduled for Friday morning. But that guy actually worked at the place that Top Gun is based on.
Really?
Yeah, so that's one you're going to want to listen to, because he's huge in the aviation industry. So
I love aviation stories.
Tell me about it, dude.
Check that one out for sure.
So episode 3 that just came out last week is an interview I did with a pilot who flies for American there in Dallas, and I did that one for another podcast, just sort of a contribution as a community member, just to help the show or whatnot. But I ended up posting it on here too, because it was a good interview, and that guy flies 737s. He's got some good stuff to say. But
Guy's got tens of thousands of hours, man. It's unbelievable, all the stuff they've seen, done.
Oh yeah. Well, and
amazing.
another guy that I'm going to have on here eventually when he makes it around to our side of the country is a retired pilot who just retired from Delta this last year. 36 years I think he had.
Wow.
With Delta, yeah.
It's a lot of
Flying
time.
MD-88s and 717.
Big boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
One day, my friend. What's today? Probably 10 years from now, I might be there.
Is that what your goal is? Are you working
Well-
towards that, or?
Well, I don't know. Right now, we're doing just great, living life, whatnot.
Of
But
course.
that's something I did want to do in the future is progress in aviation. I have as far as a multi-engine rating right now,
Nice.
so I'm able to fly twin-engine airplanes.
Yeah.
But I'm working on. I want to work on my instrument and my commercial. That way, I can fly through the clouds and
Of course.
get paid to fly, of course. But
And what ideally what plane would you want to be flying if you were to go commercial?
that's a good question. I want to fly the big guys, man. Like,
Any of them?
yeah, just those things amaze me.
Tell me about it.
They're just so heavy and just so big. And
Right?
just
Isn't that
see
crazy?
those things fly is
I was
unreal.
reading an article the other day about a 777 that had an engine flame out or something like that, or a compressor stall, and so they had to circle back and land, and they were saying it was 480 people on board or something like that. I'm like thinking, dude, that's already
like a school inside.
an entire school, and it's inside of this tube.
I know.
It just, the physics are mind-boggling.
It's scary. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've what did I tell you? I had just under 300 hours now.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes there's times where you still get that feeling like, what if, But that's what you train for, man. Like, that's all it is when you train is, what if?
That's
What if
interesting.
the engine fails? What if
Right.
smoke or whatever? But so
How
But
much?
yeah.
How much of that do you actually go over, like in your private pilot's training?
well, when it comes time to practice, a lot. When you get recurrent, every 2 years you do your biannual flight review, or
Yeah.
if you get another rating or something, they might make you do it again. But those are the times you usually practice those. I usually don't do them other than that, but there's times where I've taken friends and showed them what a stall was and stuff like
Wicked.
that. But it's not for everybody.
No, well, yeah, no kidding.
my stomach, don't get me wrong, my stomach still gets all whacked out too, and you get some pretty good turbulence, and I've been through some pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Is it
it's all part of it,
Is it worse in the smaller airplanes? Because I've never been on anything smaller than like a 145.
You know what? Honestly, I guess you can say it is a little bit because you're a little bit more compact. There's times I was coming back from the lake, Conchas, and we were coming back from the lake to here, Santa Fe, and we had just passed a ridge. And right when we passed that ridge, man, I kid you not, the turbulence just got us. And for me, I hit my head on top of the cabin.
No kidding.
It didn't hurt, but it was pretty rough. It's some pretty rough turbulence, but that's one of many times I've encountered it. But going back to what I was saying is, in a smaller plane, maybe yes because you're more compact, but no because you're able to see all around you. You see what's in the front, the side. You can see the back seats, the back windows.
Okay.
You see where you're going. On a big airplane,
Right.
it's a hit or miss. You have a window, you have an aisle.
Right.
Who knows where you're at? And when you're going through turbulence, you're kind of just wondering, like, what's going on? Where are we going? You know what I
Right.
mean? So, I don't know. That's just how I think of it. But
Very interesting.
in a way, maybe so, maybe not.
Okay, so being that you're right around 300 hours, tell me what's the hairiest situation you've found yourself in so far?
It's just weather, man.
Just weather.
Weather. And no matter how much you plan or do your due diligence and look, you never know. Mother Nature can change in a heartbeat. And
Yeah, sure.
it was a couple of those changes that got a little hairy, but with our, phones and avionics inside, tablets,
Sure.
you're able to pick another airport, divert, hang out there for a while, let it ride out, or
Yeah.
stay the night, whatever. So, but majority of them have been diversions of like weather and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And anything from snow to rain to wind gets really gusty and throws you
Yeah, I
around
bet.
up there. So got to really respect the weather in aviation.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't, you're pushing it there. But
Yeah,
but
and-
I've learned to respect the weather a lot since day one. So
And we hear a lot of stories in the news about crashes because of weather, and it still happens. And you figure like as
still
many
happens, yeah.
anybody who's into any kind of aviation knows better, and anybody who's a private pilot, you would assume knows better and would have that respect for the weather. But man, I just the other day I heard of one. Like, they're the NTSB is constantly releasing
Reports.
final reports about it was all weather. It's never like
Yeah.
obviously there's some pilot fault in some of them, but the majority of it was like this pilot decided he was going to fly in this weather or unnecessarily and for what and it never ends good.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on your plane. Well, first it depends on you if you're even rated to go in the weather or not. That's why I'm saying I'm a VFR pilot, not an IFR pilot yet. IFR is flying through the clouds. That's what the commercial guys do.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to be commercial, but IFR is anything 18,000 feet and above, flying up there. So
18,000 and above. Interesting. I didn't know
1,000
that.
and above, you're flying IFR.
And
You're basically flying off your instruments. This is all you have right there in front of you, and
Right, because all you can
can't
see
be
out
like,
the
oh,
windows.
there's the cathedral there to the left,
Yeah,
and
no.
so
At
it's a little
18,000
harder
feet.
to identify things
Sure.
from up there, of course.
Sure. And all you see out the windows when you're in those situations
Clouds
is
are blue.
Yeah,
for the
you're not.
sky.
That's interesting. So what is your average flight level, or what are you restricted to in those planes?
Well, flying VFR, there's rules that you fly by. If you're going west, you go even 1,000 feet plus 500. So Santa Fe, we're there at the ground starts at 6,000 feet, 6,300 or so. So I cruise anywhere from 7,300 feet, which is the pattern altitude there at Santa Fe. When you're in the pattern doing your touch and goes and all that stuff.
Sure.
So that's 1,000 feet above the runway.
Okay.
7,300 feet.
Okay.
So now when we're cruising, when I'm going to the lake or out of state or whatever, it just kind of depends. You do all this planning out, right? And when you do all this planning out, it identifies all the different hazards, terrain, and stuff in front of you. So, if there's a mountain in front of you that's 9,500 feet, you want to probably plan for 10,500 feet or 11,500 feet. More than likely 11,500 feet 10,500 feet because it's an even number. So
Okay.
10.5 if I'm headed west. Now if I'm going east, it's going to be odd number, odd 1,000 plus 500. So 9,500. That's the lowest I can fly to Conchas. 9,500 feet.
And what's your upper limit?
I usually go up to 11.5, but the thing is you can only go so high because of oxygen.
Oh, okay, right.
Because
'Cause they're not
oxygen rolls-
pressurized.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So it's 12.5 on the limit for oxygen.
Wow.
You have like 30 minutes or so to like go up there, come back down, get some oxygen. But
What a trip. That's
I never
crazy.
really mess with that. I just stay at
Better
11.
not.
I just stay at 11.5 and
Hypoxia is no joke.
it's 10.5 or 11.5, and I've been fine with that. I've been a little higher for a while, but I'd never cruised for a long period of time higher than 11.5.
Interesting. And what's the furthest you've flown?
Tennessee.
Whoa.
Knoxville, Tennessee.
In one flight?
In one flight. So
From Santa Fe?
from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Knoxville, Tennessee.
Wow.
And I got to do this because I worked for a boat dealership, Malibu Boats, there in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They're no longer in business. It's here in Albuquerque now. But I used to work for Surf and Turf, Santa Fe, New Mexico. We sold Malibu and Axis wake boats.
Cool.
Every year we would go out to Tennessee and do our dealer meeting.
Yeah.
So the past couple years we did commercial, right? And we were just waiting for that year, man. Just good weather and all that good stuff, just to finally go in the airplane that my boss owned, right?
Nice.
That was the airplane I got to rack up a lot of hours in because I don't own an airplane myself. one of these days.
It's gonna
Hopefully-
happen.
Hopefully soon, my friend. We're working on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was amazing. I've got to fly over a lot of things, a lot of states, lots of rivers, forests. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
And what did the planning of that trip look like?
It was all on my iPad here. Basically connecting the dots.
Right.
We go as long as we could. We had about 5 hours worth of fuel, and of course, whenever we needed the restroom.
Yeah.
So out of here, we made a little stop in Texas, used the restroom there, and then we stopped in Kansas. You did another restroom break and got some lunch, and then we were in Knoxville, Tennessee, within the next couple hours.
Nice.
And we landed on the Tennessee River. They have a airport. What is it? The Knoxville Island Airport. It's like a little island in the middle of the river that you get to land on.
Damn, that's
And,
crazy.
that very same river is the same river that we have our boat dealer meetings on. So we're up and down the
that's
river
cool.
on the boats. It was awesome, man. So that was the furthest I've ever been, but I've been, neighboring states, Colorado, lots of Colorado, lots of places in Colorado. So beautiful there. Arizona, we've flown to a Barrett Jackson car show there.
Oh, that's cool.
I've seen it on TV many times, and one time my friend gave me a call. He said, "Hey, what are you doing today?" "Oh, not much. What's going on? You want to go to Arizona?" for what? Hot. It's hot over there, He's just like, "Let's go to the Barrett Jackson car show. I heard it's on." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." We were there in about 3 hours in the airplane.
Nice.
We landed. It was so funny. We're this little baby airplane next to all this heavy metal, multi-million-dollar jets from everybody else there for the auction, right?
That's too funny.
People have the money to buy the cars. We're this little Kia airplane next to this, Chevy Denali or GMC Denali era Gulfstream.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but that was cool too, and. Just everywhere else, man. Texas, lots of Texas. I used to fly the airplane to Texas to get work done on it. So
So the airplane that you fly now, you said was from your flight school, correct?
no. So it was gonna be a part of a flight school one time, but it never really got off the ground.
Oh, okay.
But that airplane that I've flown was owned by my friend, and he was the one who owned the company as well.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So he owned the company.
And what plane was that? What model?
We had 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
We had lots of fun in all 3 of them, but
Heck yeah.
the first 2 were twin engines, and that's how I was able to
dude,
get my
that's awesome.
multi-engine rating, right?
Yeah.
So once he wanted an airplane, he wanted a twin. I flew out to Chickasha, Oklahoma to get my multi-engine rating.
Oh,
It was
that's
during
worth it.
COVID, so not very many people were open, and then that same time, like, we couldn't really do anything. So I was just like, oh man, let's go get a rating,
Dude, that's awesome.
So got my rating, came back. He found an airplane he liked. We flew it back. We got it all up to par. We flew it all over the place. Took his family up, my family up. Went to the lakes. And then he felt he needed some more horsepower. So then he got another one of the same kind, but turbocharged.
Oh, nice.
So they're Piper Aztecs.
Wicked.
And they're a six place airplane, twin engine airplane. Had about 1,700 pounds of payload, so it was like my truck outside. It was just like a diesel truck, man. They call them the Az trucks. That's their nickname, the Az trucks. They can haul a lot of stuff.
And how many passengers fit in those?
5 passengers, 1 pilot.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And the last airplane that he had was a brand new Diamond DA-40.
Oh, cool.
And it was an NG. The NG signified that it was a diesel motor.
Oh, cool.
So it was a diesel motor that ran off of jet fuel, turbocharged with 160 horsepower, I think
Wow.
it was. Yeah. So that little
That's
airplane,
wild.
man, got us a lot of places.
That's why, and that was a single engine.
Single engine. But it had autopilot, it had the Garmin cockpit, it
Oh,
had
wow.
air conditioning.
Damn.
Like,
That's wild.
That airplane was wild, man. Like, when I was in the Aztec, dude, I was sweating my you know what off, man. And You know, it was crazy. But this AC air conditioned airplane was no joke.
That's
It was
fucking awesome.
It was sweet, you know. So it's on the ground, you get pretty big down there, especially on the tarmac,
Sure.
waiting for clearance or taxi instructions or your turn to take off. You know, it gets pretty hot down there.
Have you flown into Albuquerque before?
I have. I've done a biannual flight review with one of my older pilot friends, Doug. He's a retired cop, and now he's flying the big metal
Nice.
airlines. And he's the one who inspired me to do a lot of flying. He, back in Santa Fe, when I was working at the airport, he had a nice job there in a King Air, Beechcraft King Air,
Oh, cool.
King Air 90. And one day I was helping him out, and he said, "Hey man, you want to go to Albuquerque with me sometime?" I said, "Sure." And I took the wife with me, and we flew to Albuquerque, went to Gardenios, had some lunch. He did something at the shop with the airplane. We flew back. And, you know, I was just like, you know, when I grow up, I want to be like that. You know, I want to be inspirational. I want to help people, you know,
Yeah.
fulfill their dreams. And, you know, you just got to take a leap and give it a shot. You know what I mean? I was pretty unsure about everything, but, you know, your dedication and, you know, everything pays off, man. It's crazy how it all works, but
it is. It's very crazy. And coming from the other side of that, as a kid, I don't know. Again, going back to Top Gun, I had a little interest in flying when I was a kid. I remember playing a bunch of times that I was flying in one of those jets, you know, one of those military aircraft, that just the F-16s or whatever, you know, just. And then I don't know, somewhere over time I lost interest. I could have cared less, and I guess maybe it was not living near an airport, not seeing planes, not going on planes. You know, I guess out of sight, out of mind, maybe.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2018 that I actually gained a fascination with airplanes through the most oddball things. So what happened was, the wife and I went to Universal Studios in Florida.
Yeah.
And we flew on Frontier down there. And mind you, I'm a nervous flyer, because I think that at that point that was probably maybe not even 10 times I'd flown. And it was crazy because we flew out of Albuquerque, but then we had to fly south to basically the Mexico border, and then fly east from there to go around some crazy weather. And it was cool watching all that weather out of the window. It was way cool, but, you know, really nerve-wracking. And it added an extra hour to our flight, which was a trip in itself. So, I mean, that was what it was. It was a cool flight. Nothing extraordinary happened. But when we were leaving Universal to come home, we were on the runway, and we were at about V1, and the pilot called it and slammed on the brakes. So it was a high-speed rejected takeoff. It was a trip, dude. It scared the shit out of me. And, everybody lunged forward in their seats. And, you know, I just had this flash in my mind of another jet coming through our plane or something. It scared the shit out of me. But my wife jokes that in that moment, my brain must have whiplashed and hit the front of my skull, because from then on I had to know everything there was to know about planes and how they worked and why something like that would happen. I had to watch every crash investigation video there is. And
really?
Yeah, dude, I don't know what it was, but that moment freaked me out so bad that I had to educate myself on what could have possibly happened. Because the pilot, we asked, and he just said he got a warning that he wasn't comfortable taking off with. And I was like, dude, no judgment. I'm super grateful for you, because
yeah.
I'd rather be safe on the ground than up in the air wondering, you know.
Of course.
And so yeah, that started my fascination. And then when we got back from the trip, I found a couple of podcasts, aviation podcasts, and I watched countless hours of video footage of planes, and just, I don't know, from there it just grew into this thing that you were saying. Now I'm outside talking to somebody and I hear a plane and I just look up immediately, and it's a trip, dude.
Yeah, you never really know what you're going to see, honestly. I mean, majority of everything you see is commercial, but every once in a while you look up and you'll see some awesome military aircraft. You'll see some rare, unique, old, antique aircraft.
Dude.
You never really know, man.
I got some really good pictures of the firefighting
Oh,
aircraft.
me too.
When we were having the fires up north.
My
That's
son
really
got
good
invited
ones.
inside the cockpit and got to see
Oh, that's
the whole
awesome.
thing inside. It was those things are amazing. You know what? That's kind of what I wanted to do eventually when I got older. is
Firefighting.
Do something like that. I would not necessarily a firefighter, but like I guess so, firefighter, because I'd be flying an airplane putting out fires like
Right.
that. But I mean, I never, never really thought like what, but I think that's pretty cool. Like saving,
I agree.
Saving the forest, saving the land, saving people, saving property. Like that's one big thing in aviation that helps people a lot. Like,
Yeah. Well, and you're doing something you love.
and you're doing something you love. So that was something I'd definitely look into, is something like that. Or I even want to try to do like helicopter too. Like there's even the helicopters that do the same thing. The sky cranes that just suck up water. They look like big, huge wasps. Just
those things are crazy.
But something like that, or maybe I don't know, medical or something. Fly. I don't know. I'm still unsure. All I know is I just want to fly.
There's a lot of there's so many avenues.
I was even thinking about tours. Like I know so many cool places, man.
Yeah.
From the sky, like
Sure.
just get in there and do some cool tour. Like, if we get our airplane and I make it to my commercial and instrument, all that stuff, maybe that's something I can.
That would be amazing.
Think about. It's a while from now, but I mean,
sure.
It's definitely
it's good to
probably a goal.
Yeah, good to have goals and something to look forward to. And speaking on all those avenues, there's a cargo pilot that he's part of one of those podcasts I listen to, but in his spare time, his days off, he flies rescue dogs from one rescue to their adopted homes or whatever like that. So like, there's so many different ways to actually help people that are beneficial beyond yourself. You're doing something bigger than yourself. So I think it's a really cool skill to have. Like, I mean, I can fix a car for somebody, but you're helping one person at a time on the ground. It's not anywhere near the same. You flying somebody in a rescue copter or something like that. That's life changing. That's really cool ambition to have.
I was in the Civil Air Patrol, and they do a lot of search and rescue. So some of the airplanes that I've flown, the 182s, they were a part of search and rescues, and they were able. I never found anybody myself or flown any missions, but I've trained in that airplane, and I've landed that airplane at the spaceport when many years ago when they're first getting their thing going, and Virgin Galactic was coming up and all that, and they had the ship there, and we flew down. My captain and I flew down a couple of cadets. I was an airspace education officer. I don't know how I ended up with that, but I did, and I got to fly RC airplanes and drones inside the
so cool
hangar at the airport at the National Guard for the kids, the cadets. So
that's way cool.
That was fun. But going back to the Civil Air Patrol, that's what that was all about.
Yeah.
That was another nice, cool part of my life that I got to take a part of.
So real quick, I wanted to touch base on something for any of the listeners out there who don't know. Tell me what IFR and VFR stand for, what that means.
Instrument flight rules, which instruments here, so 18,000 feet and above, you can be flying off these bad boys because you have no visual references up there other than clouds and blue sky, right?
Right.
And VFR is visual flight rules. So that's basically see and avoid. You have clearances to maintain above people, private property, all that kind of stuff, usually within 1,000 feet or so.
Sure.
500 feet or so when it's, nobody there or whatever. But those are the two differences between two different types of flying, VFR, IFR.
Okay.
VFR, visual, you're down low, like down here we can see and avoid. Avoid the towers, of course.
Yeah,
so,
keep it in the blue.
Exactly.
Okay, so now back to the Civil Air Patrol?
Air Patrol, yeah.
Tell me about that.
So, I was actually a part of the Civil Air Patrol when I first started flying because I was hoping to get my license with them. But since there was a school within, like, 25 miles of the airport or something, I would have to go with them. So I had to fly with Sierra Aviation, who I started my flying with. But yeah, I was basically joined them to finish off my license. And after I learned I couldn't finish with them, I went ahead and finished my license, got back with them, and I wanted to train to be a search and rescue pilot. And at the time, I was already working O'Reilly's. I was buzzing tables at my friend's restaurant, and I also was working at the airport. So I had 3 jobs.
I remember you being a busy guy.
3 jobs and study time and prep for the baby. So
Now, what is the Civil Air Patrol for those who don't know?
Civil Air Patrol is a branch of the U.S. Air Force. It's a civilian branch, but you know, it's non. You don't get paid. It's all volunteer basis, and I really encourage kids or anybody who's involved in or who wants to be involved in aviation to reach out to your nearest Civil Air Patrol unit and see if you can get in there and check it out. They have some really cool stuff. They get into rockets, RC airplanes, drones. Talk a lot about search and rescue. They're real sharp. I'll tell you that. They're a real sharp group of kids, cadets, and
That's way cool.
yeah, that was real nice to be a part of.
Now, touching on the RC, I know you have a lot of RCs yourself.
I was gonna bring one today.
You should have. Damn it.
I know.
Another time.
Yeah.
But tell me about your RCs.
Oh man.
How many do you have?
I can't even count them.
Really?
They're all over my man cave. Just like you have your man cave in your garage. Mine's like that, with like airplanes hanging from the walls. I still got some that I need to build.
That's awesome.
I got some my son and I built together. Some that I just built together. A lot that I bought, but just different twin engines, single engines.
Awesome.
Airplanes with floats because we like to go to the lake.
That's way cool. I've seen the videos of those. That's
So,
awesome.
So.
And are they all electric? Do you have any gas powered?
A lot of them, majority of them are gas.
No kidding.
Which I don't fly, but I do have 4 operable electric airplanes right now,
Cool.
and they're a
And-
blast.
Any of them turbos?
No.
No.
Turbines, no. I know I always say this. Eventually, when I have the time, but I mean, my son and I were cleaning out the bottom of the house, and we have a couple airplanes down there that we need to put together. And he's like, Dad, we need to make some time to put them together and go fly them. I was like, I know, right? But that's the thing now, you know, it's time, and we're also busy with work and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
No, I hear you.
So I just get ready to fly, and I'm out, you know.
That's too cool.
So
When's the last time you went flying?
RC or the real flying?
Both.
RC was probably a good month ago or so, because I've been busy, really busy the past month. But I fly out there at the MRC fields. I get a little permit from them, and I get all access to the soccer fields out there.
That's cool.
They close them up now. They lock them up.
Oh, no kidding.
So you have to buy a permit from them. So once you get a permit, you have access in there.
And that's the one on the south side of Santa Fe, right?
Yeah, by Las Campanas.
yeah,
and,
okay.
and all that stuff. So, oh man, that made my day. So, because you know it's hard to find a place to fly, then you don't want to disturb people or hurt anybody and stuff like that.
Of course.
So I've been flying over there for the longest time, and now I'm finally getting back into it since I have a little bit of time on my hands when I can just go out and go do something like that for a while. But my son and I, we load up the RV with all the airplanes, and we'll go spend half a day out there and
Yeah, buddy, that's awesome.
and go fly. You know, we got a little restroom, little kitchen to eat and everything. I mean, we're set. So.
Heck yeah.
So about a month ago for RC, and then the real airplanes was probably around the same, about a month ago. My friend, the guy we're talking about with the airplane, he gave me a call. He's like, hey, you want to go to the lake today? And I was like, sure. Canceled all my things for that day.
Yeah, buddy.
Met him at the airport, flew out to Contrast, and did some things around the house and stuff like that, and ran a couple errands, and Then we flew to Vegas, New Mexico, landed there, got a courtesy car from the airport, went to oh god, I forgot the name of the restaurant. Never been in the middle of Vegas before, but it's this real nice restaurant there. Good. We had some breakfast, and then took the airport workers some breakfast for lending us the car, and
That's cool.
full gas, and flew back. And that was that. But just to be able to do something like that, it's awesome.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Being up there really just resets me. It clears your mind, and your mind just on other things, of course. But it's awesome.
And your buddy with the planes, does he have a pilot's license also?
He did. He does now. So when I first started with him, he didn't, and he loved
just had
airplanes
planes.
too. Yeah, he liked airplanes too. And then the more I talked about him and stuff, and the more we were around him, like, he really got that itch too.
That's cool.
And so that's when he started buying his airplanes, and so now he has his pilot's license, and I wouldn't be surprised if he passed me in hours by now. And he had just got his license, I think, last year. But he flies the crap out of that airplane, man.
Well, you should.
It's nice.
You need to
And
have.
I would too, if it was mine.
That's what I was say. You
But no, that he
need
loves
to
it.
cut
He
you a
loves
deal on one of them planes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, him and I, we work some cool deals out and stuff like that. He lets me fly his plane, and I do some work. Cool stuff like that. So like, it's
That's
always
really cool.
trading. It's like who your friends and stuff like that, and you guys can trade work and stuff like that.
Of course.
It's cool.
So walk me through what it looks like getting a private pilot license, like from start to finish. How do you even get started?
So that was a good question I had back in 2010. So there's a school there in Santa Fe now. Unfortunately, they're about to close. They're retiring. They're getting up there. They've been around for a while.
Sure.
Put lots of pilots out there for sure. I'm one of them. But basically, you call up or go to your local flight school, wherever you're located. Tell them you want to do an introductory flight. Plan that out. On that day, bring your camera, and just go for it. You usually go out to one of their practice areas. They'll let you take control of the airplane, do a couple maneuvers, maybe even show you some of the emergency procedures or stalls or something like that. Just to show you a little bit of that. And then they'll bring you back in to land, and then from there it's your choice if you want to continue or not. And that's step one. That's your foot in the door. Calling up that flight school. Hey, do you have availability? Boom, get started.
Okay.
Start saving that money because it's not cheap.
Now tell me about that aspect of it.
So back when I was in flight school, I was working with the state, and this was back in 2010 or so. Wasn't making very much as a security guard, but how I got by was working overtime, all the special events and stuff, to at least get 2 lessons a month. And that's pretty bad. And you want to go a little bit more often to get it in your head and
Sure.
remember everything and stay fresh on your maneuvers and stuff. But that's all I could do, man. Like, I was a poor guy wanting to fly, and that's what I had to do. And it took me a while. I started in 2010 is when I first started flying. I didn't get my license until 2013. So 3 years of saving up, trying to figure things out, working 3 jobs sometimes, just to
Doing what you had
just
to.
do what you have to do what you want,
Yeah.
And so that's the second part of it. Second part of it is this dedication, staying in it, and don't let anything get in the way.
Sure.
And there's going to be lots of times where you just want to give up and say this, but don't let it get you. Like, just keep going at it. And we all make mistakes. we don't fly perfect all the time. Yes, I can hop down the runway. I don't always butter them. And, I can say that with confidence because I'm not the best pilot out there. But, it's just what it is, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
But, so that's the second thing is, staying on top of it, staying focused, staying committed, just get her done. And then third part is figuring out, that's probably one of the most stressful parts, to be honest with you, is when your tests come up. You got your written test, which you take here in Albuquerque Double Eagle Airport.
Okay.
And then you got your actual flight test, which you take with an aviation examiner, which I took mine with Jeff Veniclazin out of Santa Fe. If you ever see this, hey Jeff, thank you. But so he's an examiner. He's the guy who gets you your license. He's the guy who says yay or nay. It's called your check ride.
Yeah.
It's basically you get check or no check. It's yay or nay, pass, no pass. If you don't pass, you get to try again, of course. But just that feeling like of all this time of you've been studying and everything, you're just like it's really intense. It's really nerve-wracking. But testing, once you get your testing done, your written tests, you're like, oh, whew, got that done. Then your practical test. So then that's when you start getting nervous, and you start. Some people fall downhill. Some people just get massive headaches. But it's all about planning your check ride. And then there would be times where you plan your check ride, and then guess what? Weather. We got to reschedule. Sorry, 1 month out.
Oh,
so
God.
it's just a freaking, you know what I mean?
It's a mind fuck.
Exactly. A big mind fuck. A big enough mind fuck, you're just like, fuck this, fuck everything. I'm serious, but if you get through that.
And what do you feel in those moments leading up to a check ride? What kind of nerves or what are you going through in your head?
Oh man, just don't fuck up, there's so many things that you got to remember. It's all about memorization. I tell my friends that. What's aviation about? All about memorization. When to say it, how to say it, all that kind of stuff. And that's just what it is, and what they look for is everything from your not even pre-flight. You got to make sure the weather's good first, then your pre-flight, everything else. And then you get inside the airplane, you check all the stuff in the airplane, and then they check for your, the way you taxi and stuff, taxi the runway, your communications, the way you take off, how you hold altitude, how you hold your airspeed.
Wow.
Checking for traffic. They check for everything.
So they're scrutinizing every aspect of you flying it from the moment you get into the cockpit.
You're flying a metal airplane off the ground, and they're responsible.
Hey man,
they want to make sure.
That's great.
They want to make sure
I have no issue with that, but that's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure, and on my multi-engine check ride, there was this one time I had a brain fart, and I had to make sure I was doing the right thing. And if I didn't have that brain fart and I just assumed I would have failed that check ride. Because the guy after me failed his check ride. I was the only guy that passed his check ride that day. But there would have been anybody who would have passed if I would have not reset instead of just going by, you know what I mean? I just take a deep breath. Oh, it's not that lever. It's this lever.
Hold on. Speak more on that. Tell me about the actual situation.
So it was engine out on, we're in Apache.
Okay.
Your engine out procedure. And I almost grabbed the wrong throttle.
Oh, shit.
And it was because I was just so damn nervous. And so he basically just picks an engine, right? And
he kills
from what I remember, he put one down a little bit. So the airplane, one engine was producing a little bit more thrust.
Of course.
And then you got to fix it and stuff like that. And I remember using rudder and stuff, because I was using rudder and messing with the throttle, and I had some brain fart, and I just had to reset and think, and I was like, oh, this one, and I was like, oh God, thank God I just didn't pulled the lever down because for one, it could have caused a big accident, of course. But like, you just get so nervous up there. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh,
That's
damn.
wild.
But a lot of them, like Jeff, he tells you straight up, like, hey, just relax, do your thing. It's a normal day of flying. I'm just a passenger. Just tell me everything about the airplane, what it does, all that kind of stuff. Like,
So
he really tries to eliminate all the stress and stuff like that. But
so in a check ride like that, they can just randomly grab a throttle and kill it, and you have to figure out what they did, or
or
do they warn you?
They warn you because you do your emergency procedures, and they'll be like, okay, we're gonna do your emergency procedures. We're gonna do a power off, or whatever. They give you some kind of a warning
But they don't say, "I'm doing it now. I'm killing your engine now."
Yeah, they'll just randomly do it, and you just gotta make sure you compensate.
Figure out what was going on
and figure it out. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was the same thing they did for me on takeoff out there too. Is he pulled the left engine, I think, and I had to pull the other one, and then just kind of like straighten it out and not go off the runway, of course.
Wow.
But so they just do stuff like that.
Damn.
Not to the extent where it's super dangerous, but to the extent where
Well, they need to know that you can handle yourself in a dangerous situation. So like, I get it. That's really good. It's good to know that they have standards still, because a lot of industries, don't have standards, and all this talk, especially in the aviation industry nowadays, of people wanting to go to single pilot operations in those jumbos. Like, are you kidding? Like, I would never get on an airplane with a single pilot. And not a small craft. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about I would never jump into a 737 when there's just one pilot. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And but it's good to know that people are still sticking to the traditional ways, because that seems to be what works. So I respect that.
For sure.
So going back to the flight school, tell me about the actual costs. What is like a lesson cost, and what is your overall cost?
Oh, that's a good question. So back then, 2010, I was paying about, it varied between different aircraft. There's 3 different types of models of aircraft. Each of them had an upgraded from the other one. So you had your standard glass cockpit, your steam, the circle.
Oh yeah.
Steam gauge instruments, and then you had your glass cockpit in one, and it just varied in price. So the cheapest one was always rented, of course, because that little thing kept flying and flying and flying. But the cheapest one is about $150 a lesson, and you usually go up for an hour or so, or you can do 2-hour blocks. From what I remember, I don't know what it's like now. It's changed so much. They have different scheduling systems and stuff. But anyway, you pick an airplane, whatever's available. I was paying about $150 for the cheapest, and just under $200 for the most expensive one, which had autopilot and stuff. But if you got checked out in that one, you got to fly the rest of them, which was cool. You know what I mean? Because it had all the latest and greatest, and everything else was just like the other airplanes. So about $200, $150 to $200 a lesson. 3 years of that. Sometimes I'd have to repeat lessons because I was out for so long. Like, I lost a lot of it.
Oh wow.
And I'd say anywhere from, for me, it varies on different people, but for me it was probably anywhere from 12 to 15 grand probably.
That's not so bad.
Yeah. And I did more than 40 hours. I probably soloed like at 50 maybe, and got my license a little bit after. But it varies between different people. It just kind of depends on how fast you progress through it. Like if you go weekly or monthly, whatever, it's just
gonna take a bit more time. Yeah,
it'll take a little bit more time.
And what does it look like as far as maintaining that license goes? What are your
your medical? So you got to have your medical certificate and your biannual review. So every 2 years you get checked out just to make sure you still know your stuff, you still know how to fly, you still know how to make your calls, and you're good at looking at weather, stuff like that. And then on the medical side, you can do a medical certificate, or they have this other exam that you do now where it's not so crazy. but there's two different options now for the medical side that you got to be up to par with to fly an aircraft. And though I think under 40, we're like every 4 years, every 5 years on the medical.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Those are all good things. Again, that they're holding standards, because I get that any sort of medical incident can happen to anybody at any time. But I mean, it's good that they're keeping an eye out for looking for stuff in the future. Now, does that ever make people nervous to the point that they want to avoid? Like, I know that there was this whole controversy with this Alaska Airlines pilot who tried to shut down the engines in flight. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah.
It was a mental health thing, and
Oh yeah.
there's like a big stigma in the airline industry over mental health, because if you obviously are having mental health problems, they're not going to let you fly, and pilots don't want to not fly. So
Yeah.
do you think that the medical plays a similar role in people's minds, where they're like, I don't want to disclose whatever medical issue I'm having because of I don't want to get grounded?
Maybe. I know they really crack down on DWIs. So they ask you in the questionnaire before you get your license, have you done it? And if you lie, they go back and they take a look at everything, and if they catch you in a lie, then you can't get your license for like an even longer extended time because you already lied about the DWI or whatever. But they're pretty strict on stuff like that, DWI, drugs, all that kind of stuff. So that's basically what they check every 2 years, just to make sure like you're not addicted to anything, or you're not having seizures, or
okay,
you're not having like massive headaches while you're flying, or you're not taking prescription drugs while you're flying.
Sure.
Like just kind of stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Check your vision, of course, your hearing, all that kind of stuff. Like I have to have pretty good vision to be able to spot other aircraft above me, below me, or
on your
at
same
my
plane.
level.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Okay, so let's switch topics here a little bit. Tell me what your favorite airplane of all time is.
cool.
I know it's a hard question to answer because there's so many of them, but if you had to put one in that number one spot, what would it be?
Damn, it's hard. I don't even know what to say. I mean, so many pop up in my head, but when I was a child, it's changed over the years, of course, but when I was a child, I really, really digged the F4U Corsair. It's like the big old radial military aircraft with the folding wings.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really dig that one, and nowadays it's like I like the old school airplanes. P-51. I even have RC airplanes of them. So P-51 Mustang.
Sure.
And then I wanted to say the first thing coming out of my mouth was A-10 Warthog. That's my favorite one of all time. But
interesting.
There's just so many that are.
You have an interesting taste in planes.
And then my son, he can tell you all the big guys. Oh, that's the A380 or 737 or 757, and I'm like, bro, like.
That's where I am, dude.
He's like Dash 5. I'm like, what's a Dash 5?
I'm like your son, man. Like
a model. So I'm like, oh my god, dude. Like he's good. He's only 10.
When we flew to Egypt, I got to go in the cockpit. The captain invited me and my wife in the cockpit while we were flying over Athens, Greece. And
that's sick.
It was so sick, dude. It was an A350, only a 2-year-old jet. So just an experience that nobody gets to have nowadays because obviously it's not legal. There's 5 countries in the world, the captain was telling me, that at the captain's discretion they can invite people into the cockpit. So there's only 5 in the world.
Sick.
And obviously Air France, France is one of them. So
see, I thought that would have been the one that would have changed it for you in aviation, not the brake check.
Well, this just happened. This was last year. It was fucking epic, dude. It was about 10 o'clock at night. We were at 40,000 feet. And so the whole story goes, my wife and I, as a nav geek, you have an understanding better of how operations work day to day with those. And most people look at a flight attendant and assume that's our waiter. You know what I mean? They don't think of them as your life saving, your lifeline in an emergency. So the wife and I, since we were flying so many planes to get to Egypt and whatnot, we decided we were going to get a big stack of gift cards and just give everybody in the flight crew gift cards for each of our flights. And so we did that, and on that leg was from Charles de Gaulle to Cairo, and we got on and asked the flight manager how many people they had on the plane working that day, including the captain and the first officer and whatnot, and she told us. So, you know, we handed her a bunch of gift cards and said, please make sure everybody gets one, and then just moseyed onto our seats. And she was just like, what, why? What is this about? So she came to talk to me at my seat, and she's like, so do you work for Starbucks? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, what's with the gift cards? And I said, oh, well, so I explained to her, you know, we wanted to show you that we appreciate you. We know you're not just a waiter, and, you know, it'd be nice for you guys to get something out of the norm, you know, because half the time I'm sure that people don't even thank the flight attendants. They're just like, you know, give me a drink.
Yeah. Where's my peanuts?
That's right, dude. So, so anyway, she was like, well, that's really nice of you. And she went about her business. And then about an hour into flight, she came back and she's like, the captain, once he's settled, wants to come talk to you and, you know, thank you for the gift card. And I was like, oh, that's cool, you know. I'll talk to a captain and pilot any day. So I was waiting for that to happen, and we were about 2 hours in flight, and I got up to use the restroom, went to the front there, and I was standing there waiting in line, and she came up to me and she's like, okay, the captain's ready to talk to you now. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, I started walking back to my seat, and she's like, no, I'm gonna get your wife and we're gonna go in the cockpit. And I was like, oh, like, dude, I almost screamed like a little girl. I was freaking geeking out. I was like, no freaking way. Like, in flight, we're going into a cockpit. This is fucking wild. So yeah, they opened the door. We went in and hung out with the pilots for about 5 minutes in there, and he was pointing stuff out on the ground to us in Athens, and got to see another jet fly underneath us. It was just an experience that I'll never ever forget. It was so freaking amazing.
Those guys get the best views ever, man.
Tell me about it. And dude, that cockpit is huge. An A350 is like, it's big, almost, I don't know, it's about the size of this room.
Yeah, just...
And I was standing up straight, comfortably, you know what I mean? I wasn't hunched over or anything, just standing. I got to sit in the jump seat for a little bit and have a conversation with them, and just the windows are like huge. It was a really cool experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go with either the A350 or the 777 as my favorite.
There you go.
Just because of that experience.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But I also have to say, like, and I said this in my wife and I talked about our Egypt recommendations if anybody's going to go, and one of the things I said is, you only live once. Don't waste those long flights in economy. It's very expensive, but save the money and go business, because you don't have to go first class, but go business at least, because it's like a whole nother world of flying. It's just the comfort level raises to that next level. I'm not joking. Between LA and Paris, I forgot I was on a plane half the time. I was just sitting there, like, it was like my own little apartment. It was such a trip, and I couldn't imagine that flight sitting back in coach, you know, at 11 hours. Just, it's a whole nother world. So and I attribute that to actually getting invited into the cockpit is otherworldly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So now, you and I are at some point going to take a flight. You have promised me that, and I'm going to hold you to that promise. I want to experience the private pilot flying and see what that's like. But I will say that I have some reservations. You know, I am a bit nervous, being that it is a smaller jet. I've never experienced it. Well, I guess it's not even a jet, plane. But you know, you said some things to me when we first talked about this, and tell me about what a typical flight would look like if you were taking me up.
Yeah, so basically it kind of starts like what we're doing, a little debrief. What's up, James? Today, you know, we talked about going, you know, to the lake. We're gonna go to the lake, and you know, basically we'll be cruising at this altitude, show you some emergency stuff about the airplane, all the the exit and all the stuff about the airplane, all that stuff. Get you comfortable, asking any questions. Any questions you may have, just answer those, and then just kind of like I'm a real out loud person, so when I'm around the airplane, you'll see me, but like oil check, and
No, I appreciate
instead
that.
of just like
Yeah.
just walking around doing everything. So I like to say things out loud. But so we get there, we meet, we go around the airplane, probably make you do a pre-flight with me so you know
Heck yeah.
what I'm looking at and get you feeling safe and know that everything's going to be okay and you don't have to really worry a whole lot on the flight. So we walk around the whole airplane, do the pre-flight. After that's done, we get inside the airplane. We turn it on. We make sure all the systems are good in there before we go. We
Real quick, what? How do we know what the maintenance is on those things? How do we know when the last time it was maintained, or what they were looking for, or what repairs were done? How does that all work?
They all have logbooks.
Okay.
So the owner is responsible, for the logbook and stuff. As a pilot, you're responsible to technically check them, just to make sure it's up to date. On the annual inspection, they got to be checked every year for the annual inspection to make sure they're still airworthy, still flyable. I'm not gonna.
And in between those annuals, is it at your own discretion?
It is. Some people do their oil changes every so often, or some people just wait till their annual. There's other items inside the airplane like the ELT and other things that need to be checked too. So all that's inside the logbook, and
Okay.
you just kind of somewhat know when it was and when's the next time it's due.
Okay.
And so that basically takes care of that. Every airplane said has a logbook or should have a logbook. Some of the logs are missing because logging stuff down back in the 50s, 60s, 70s,
Oh yeah.
So a lot of older airplanes are missing some logbooks and stuff like that. But as far as maintenance goes, that tells you what's going on with the airplane, what's been replaced, what needs to be replaced, what needs to be checked. The pre-flight checklist, which is inside the airplane, lets you know what to check on the exterior and interior side of the airplane. And then once all that's good, we tune up to the weather. We get the special code, the phonetic alphabet, alpha,
Yes.
Bravo, Delta. So they give you a special code on the hour, whether it's Alpha, Delta, Echo, whatever it is on that hour. You tell the tower, Santa Fe Tower, Diamond 505 Whiskey Sierra with information, Echo, ready to go at Sierra Aviation. They'll be like, hey, Diamond 505 Whiskey Sierra, proceed to taxi runway 20 via Alpha. So you read back all the instructions and you get yourself to the runway. Right before the runway, there's usually a little pull-off area where you do your engine test. So you pull out to the side, you hit the button, and our particular airplane has a button. You just hold down the button. It checks both systems. So if one fails, the other one kicks in. Checks both systems. Once those pass, you're good to fly. So once that passes, you check a couple other things like your control surfaces.
Sure.
Put your flaps in, your fuel pump if you need to, all that kind of stuff. And then usually kind of just go back and check, when do I rotate 55 knots or whatever it is. And then once you're all set, ready to take off, you go up to the runway, you hold short of the line there. You don't really get on yet. And then you switch your frequencies. You switch from ground
To tower.
to tower. And now you're saying Santa Fe Tower, Diamond 505, Whiskey Sierra, holding short, runway 20, ready for takeoff. And then, depending on how busy he is, he might say, hold short, runway 20 for landing traffic, or proceed as requested, clear to take off runway 20, or whatever he says, repeat it back. As long as he clears you to take off, you're clear to take off. And then from there, you basically call him when you're 5 miles out, and after that you're basically radio silenced until your next destination. Or if you get like flight following service or something, you can dial them up and have them follow you so they can have eyes on you when you're flying.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
it's a nice service to have when you're flying VFR.
Sure.
On long cross countries. But our airplane had everything for us. And then
awesome.
our iPads and phones, we have the same application, and it give us the airplane where it's at, how fast it's going, the direction, the altitude, whether it's a factor for us or not.
That's cool.
And then on the weather, it'd come up on there for us, the direction of it and all that kind of stuff. So,
That's way cool.
So basically, once you're out of the radius of the airport, which here in Santa Fe or back in Santa Fe is 5 miles, you're free to go wherever you want to go.
That's cool.
And then you basically just got to abide anything from 3,000 feet above the ground is when you have to use the rules for flying, where it's VFR, the positive or
Oh, the number.
yeah, exactly.
Altitude numbers.
Exactly. So the negative or the positive, like 10,000 feet or 9,000 feet. You know what I mean? So
And then you just have to watch for your own traffic.
exactly, see and avoid.
Interesting.
That's what VFR is all about. Is just see and avoid.
Now,
For other traffic and.
on commercial aviation, there's TCAS. What do you guys have?
They call it the Fish Finder TCAS, but it's basically almost the same thing. It just
So the
gives you
plane
a
will
little.
tell you to go up or down, whatever.
Not really. Their
if you're on
system's
a-
a little bit more advanced because
Okay.
it'll like do the maneuver for you and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
The airplane that I fly doesn't do that. It just tells you where the aircraft is, and it'll give you like not only visual, but it'll give you like
An
audible alarm too, like aircraft ahead, 12 o'clock.
And what do you do? How do you know that you and that aircraft aren't going to do the same maneuver?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So I'm not sure. Usually, when I've been flying, we're usually spread out a lot. And
Well,
then
yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
I
up
mean-
there, when you're up there, you're gonna either cross like this, or something like that. So once we see them on the radar, I try to spot them out with my eyes and see, more or less if they're gonna keep going that way, or does it look like they're gonna turn. So just use caution, of course.
But say hypothetically for a head-on, they're coming straight at you.
Both you're both required to take a right.
Oh, okay, so it's
Yeah.
like a car.
Exactly.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Exactly.
That's cool. All right,
If you see something and it doesn't go up or it doesn't come down and it's on that straight path at you,
take a right.
both of you guys take a right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good to know.
It's part of the learning. Is
Cool.
it's on the.
That I just thought of that now. And
That's
made me
good though.
curious.
That's good.
Okay, so I've taken a lot of your time, and I want to end this. But before we do that, I want to talk about your outside aviation activities. What do you got going on outside of aviation?
Oh man, I'm lucky enough to do it all now. Flying was a big thing for me, and now that I've done that, I've been doing a lot of boating and a lot of camping in our camper. We've been out in our ATVs. We like to go out in Pecos Wilderness and go ride. My son and I will go by ourselves on the boat and just go have a lake day and take the float planes and go do
Awesome.
some touch and goes on the lake. Or we can just go take the RV to the field and go play there. But that's all I really. And then
And you started your own business with your tractor,
so
right?
we have, so my wife and I, we have a total of 3 businesses. I do like junk haul stuff, haul away stuff, and some tractor work with my tractor. There's one business there. The other one I do is drones, since I love flying.
Too cool.
I left O'Reilly's starting my company.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's how I left O'Reilly's, starting my company, flying. My first gig, I had to quit O'Reilly's. Poor James, he was pretty pissed at me, but
And what are you gonna do?
but hey,
he didn't want any of us to leave ever.
proud for
so-
me now, so
Yeah.
it's all good. But no, yeah, it's been nuts, man.
That's cool. All right. Well, before we get out of here, say your social medias where people can find you, and if they have any aviation related questions or anything.
Cool.
Um,
I have Instagram. It's nmpilot505, or my other Instagram account. The reason why I have so many Instagram accounts is because I have so many pictures. So I have
and I was gonna
my
say
family is NM Aviator 1, or sorry, NM Aviator. is my family Instagram. You'll see all my family activities there, camping, flying with the kids, the wife, all that kind of stuff. My flying page is NM Pilot 505. There you'll see all my cool flights from sunsets to
Really
sunrises
cool videos
to
and pictures there, so check it out.
going
for
all
sure.
over the place. And then my Facebook's just me, Estevan.
And
Estevan Rael.
if people want to get a hold of you for your tractor services or for drone services, how can they reach you?
They can either give me a call or email at nmhallandjunk.com .com at gmail.com.
Okay.
nmhalland, the letter N, junk, hall and junk, like hall and junk.
Okay.
At gmail.com, or you can reach me on my cell phone, 505-629-2310.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you for all this good conversation and for taking the time to come be on the podcast today. And we will do this again after we fly together, because we're going to have to talk about that when that happens.
That's
so,
going to be cool.
yeah, I can't wait.
That's going to be way cool.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for coming, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Did you ever get to Santa Fe much?
No, never. I drive through on my way to work in Los Alamos, and that's it.
Oh, that's right, huh? You work in Los Alamos.
Yeah. Pain in the ass.
Bro, you
Bro.
work in Los Alamos.
Yeah.